Hey Piyush, hi, welcome to our first series of Prax Convos. Thanks so much for taking out the time to talk to us. It's always wonderful chit-chatting with you. And will you also see a little bit of movement on prices to recover, so increase in prices to cover a bit of the margin? And second thing, what about the model? Will you also see more distributed retail shops with a lesser sort of square footprint, holding lesser inventory? Using some digital tools, etc., tablets to showcase the product inventory, so that the rental and the inventory cost is sort of reduced, and with the home delivery, etc. Do you see some of that also happen?
Definitely more omni-channel will kick in, I think, because everybody, all retailers would want to have a portion of their business coming from online. I think telesales will pick a huge thing. I was recently ordering something with a brand, and the guy got on a WhatsApp call and, pretty much standing in the store, showcased the whole range to me and could take an order. So that sort of thing, I think, is definitely going to evolve, and there will be a lot of these interventions which will help. In terms of, sorry, what was the other question you were asking?
The other was around the product margins and hence the pricing.
Yeah, so I think, look, I don't know about the short and medium term, but in the long term, people are going to move towards more affordability, right? The value for money factor, moving towards a Xiaomi, moving towards a value for money categories brands, they are going to thrive now in the next, let's say next five years at least. And people are going to make smarter choices. The label market is going to, I think, have a longer time, will take a longer time to recover. And I know in the short term, some of the reports suggest different in China, but I think that is more short term. But in the long term, because it has to sort of get into that equilibrium and things have to sustain, salaries could reduce a big way. I think when salaries would reduce, income would reduce. If income would reduce, people will have to manage in that cost. So rentals will have to reduce, house rentals will have to, everything will have to work, and it will reach. Now, whether it takes 12 months to get there, I do understand. But I think it is the time for affordability, value for money, categories, brands. They will see a huge surge and people will opt for them. Second, I also think that on the margin side, it is going to be tricky, because while you may want to make more margin, the consumer will want better pricing. So it will be a trade-off between margin and consumption. Very strong stickiness to margin can be detrimental to the total RGM you will generate in the business.
And what are some of those categories within consumer do you think are ripe for disruption at this stage? Where new categories could be created. There are sort of white spaces for products, or at least there is some scope for disruption in how you sell and distribution. What are some of those on the consumer side, if you find anything interesting?
So definitely all the medical supplies will be big, and I do know that there is a lot of Chinese, whether it is the infrared thermometers, whether it is the UV sanitation box, whether it is all those different, putting covers on your shoes, etc. A lot of it is coming from China. I think there will be industries like that will develop in India. I think quality brands will get created today. If you want to buy an infrared thermometer, for example, you don't have many options right now. It's not like you can say I want to buy a Sony or I want to buy a Xiaomi right now yet. So you're buying all these. So I think there will be brands that will get created, and economical brands, because this is also not a time where you'll have luxury to say I'm going to buy a Dyson infrared thermometer, right? To give you a completely drastic example. So I think that is one big segment. I think insurance and categories, people are going to look, even in things like eyewear. I think people will resort to de-risking themselves as much as possible, and new categories of insurance will get created. Health insurance as a sector, I think, will grow very well. I think there will be service businesses that will come in who will allow businesses to become COVID ready, consultants. And I don't know, you will start a stream of making businesses COVID ready and doing an analysis of what new ways of doing business. For example, I was talking to you about a WhatsApp call.
Yeah.
And Joe and some of the other brands in India have actually mastered that model of WhatsApp selling and interacting and community selling, where you're in the same society and you sell to each other, the whole Amway model. So I think there will be a lot of that services business that will develop both on the software side as well as process side and consulting, because today people don't have the tools to manage some of this. If you have to run 1,000 people call center, all work from home, a lot of people may not have technologies, or even if they do, this could be very expensive. So there's a huge opportunity to launch a what you call a SaaS model, which is per user, very affordable, something like what a Freshdesk has done, which says work from home call center, at $1 per month per employee, something like that. And I think those businesses will start kicking in. I think there'll be a lot of softwares that will come for monitoring, time management, task management. All of this will kick in. So I think there's a lot of new businesses, and some entrepreneurs I know are taking advantage of the situation to get into these things right now. You could get into something like a special packaging which is antiviral. I'm just giving you an example. You could get into clothing which is antiviral. Right? Today we wear a t-shirt. I don't know if it's antiviral, but you could tomorrow say, okay, wear this t-shirt, but this is an antiviral t-shirt. It won't catch anything. So I think there will be a huge amount of innovation that is ahead of us, and new companies getting created.
Yeah. One last question to you, Piyush, is no one is talking about some of the discretionary categories like multiplexes, spas, salons, gymnasiums, sporting events, clubs, restaurants, and going to hospitality like air travel. So again, we're slightly moving away from consumer. What will happen to these businesses? No one talking about them. They're also businesses. For them, livelihood is also essential in whatever they're doing. They put in a lot of money into their business. What will happen here?
To be honest, I haven't thought about it, but I guess they'll have to pivot. Right? They'll have to pivot. They'll have to take some very tough calls. It's a tough one, particularly travel and hospitality. Are you going to suddenly convert all your from a hotel chain? Will you become a hospital chain? I'm just giving you an example, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Just off the mind. But I think you have to be ready to pivot to some extent, and ready to ensure you're reducing cost and managing this. Or maybe go to a different geography. I don't know, depending on this. But this time calls for some drastic measures. I think 24 months later, it really will depend on the entrepreneur and the call that the entrepreneur takes, because these calls would define the business and could actually create a 10% market share guy to a 60% market share guy.
Yeah.
So, and I genuinely think what will happen in this lockdown is that businesses, what they wanted to achieve in 5 years, at least from a market share perspective, some of them would realize they've done it in 24 months.
Yeah.
Because of what the opportunities available, and they took some of those intelligent, tough bets that just played out very well. And suddenly, they got, because this is also the time when customer loyalty is going to be shaky right now. I used to go to this particular site. I used to go to this particular restaurant. I used to go to this particular optician. But now I'm going to reconsider my choice options. I'll go to the player who's more relevant to my need today versus going to the person I used to go to. And that, I think, will open opportunities in a lot of businesses. And I genuinely think that if one thinks from an opportunity standpoint, there are big business opportunities. The only thing is you'll have to think longer term, but at the same time also be flexible to keep changing your short-term way of working. What are you working? Different models. Keep trying, keep failing, and 1 out of 10 things will work. And I think startup companies have a huge leverage there, because when you're a $5 billion company, $10 billion company, changing at that scale is not easy, and you can't just suddenly get up one day and say, okay, I'm going to now sell on WhatsApp. Whereas a startup can do that. Say, okay, tomorrow all my guys are going to get into the store in a quarantine and sell on WhatsApp. Whereas a large company will be this, that, and by the time, they figure this out, somebody would have taken all the market share away.
So
I think this is the power that rests in the entrepreneurial companies. Of course, cash will be needed, but then, people have to manage cash and EBITDA really well. There is no need to over discount right now. But you need to reduce your cost and manage, affordability.
And so MSMEs, right? So typically who're running a small restaurant, right? Now they put in a lot of money and capital. Do you think, this thing is there to last, right? This is going to take a couple of quarters, even if government reopens.
You never know that, right? There is a little bit of what we don't know.
Correct. So, and some of them are with the opinion that, hey, let's wait and watch, these things might get back to sort of original levels, and some of them are, hey, I think this will take a long time. It's better to just close this business and move and do something else because I have practically no livelihood. What do you think should be the strategy of at least the independent business owners?
I think it's strategy for everybody. I remember when and the worst strategy in a time like this is to follow herd. Because I've seen this in Indian internet commerce, right? When businesses were growing and valuations were growing, and the GMV was the keyword that everybody was googling, and this valuation, and everybody was just burning money on marketing, thinking that this is the way to go. And you saw one company, and then you had a board meeting, and the investor would say, see this company, look at the growth of this company, and why are you not doing the same? And then you would go do exactly the same. And reality was that each to its own. Every business is different, and your pockets are different. Your people are different, and if you have to really look at if I am a restaurant and I know this is the cash I have, this is the sustainability I have, and if I just fast forward maybe 6 months, and I know in 6 months my business is going to finish completely, then I might as well convert that restaurant into pharmacy today. But I am a restaurant which has 24 months of visibility. I can take risks of another 3 months, start a home delivery business instead of that. I think it to each its own. And the only thing is, I think it's going to be a solid test for entrepreneurs. Solid test, because you have to manage things. You have to take decisions. No democratic decision is going to, 24 months later, people will not come with the view in any boardroom says, look, this is what we told you, and this is why it happened, and we told you to do this. It will depend on how you led the business, what is your report card showing, and at the end of the day, you need to create shareholder value. If their valuation is going to tank 50%, then it doesn't matter, you did everything they asked you to do, right? But you're not going to be the guy who created value for them. So I think one should take all the advice, whether it is from me or from their peers and peer businesses and even their own team members, I would say, but also wear that long-term head and be ready to take those tough calls. Yeah. So I think there is a little bit of that element of how you lead, and you have to take some tough calls, and you have to stay put to those tough calls, and that may not be the most popular call and most celebrated call.
It's been wonderful talking to you. Thanks so much for taking out the time, and wish you all the health and all the best to you, your family, your friends, your colleagues, everyone, your loved ones.